2011, this is the total storage for Lake Travis. Nearly 50% of the water that was in Lake Travis was drained out to flood rice fields. And 433,000 acre feet. 1 acre foot is 325,851 gallons. So when you say acre foot, it's an agrarian term because we've always been rural. And if you're dealing with large volumes of water, rather than dealing with millions, billions, and trillions, they went to acre feet. Now, no one in the population, the general population of the state, thinks in acre feet, which is one of the ways they have kept people from knowing what's actually been going on with your water. 432,000 acre feet is 141 trillion gallons of water that went down basin to flood rice fields. They flood rice fields a total of 6 feet deep to kill weeds. That's the purpose of the flooding. They don't have to do that for the plants to live, but that way it kills the weeds, so they don't have to deal with other kinds of things to take care of weeds and insects, which was fine when there was a lot of water. You know, we didn't complain back in the 80s. There was plenty of water and the issue was floods, not drought. You hear the big thing all the time about climate and what's changing. Now I think we're beginning to catch up with the rest of the world and realizing that yes, there is climate change going on. The issue then becomes whether it's man-made or nature. My thing has always been, I don't really care. It's the problem, and we need to find solutions to fix it. I love doing this one because it's I don't know if you're science-based, but everything we do is science-based. But this shows the geology of Texas. And if you look at the light green, which starts this one, it goes all the way up. That's where the Ouachita Mountains comes out of the Appalachians. It goes underground in Texas, 3,000 to 6,000 feet, goes under the state, which I think is a really cool thing to think about. But also, if you look at that lime green, that is your I-35 corridor. That comes down through Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco, Austin, San Antonio. So when you look at how the water goes, where does it rain? It rains east of I-35. Where does it not rain? And that's west of I-35. So the trend is there based upon just the topography of the state. But if you like dealing with geology and that kind of stuff, it's absolutely fascinating. This is our problem, historic low inflows. In the past 9 years, lakes have received 7 of the all-time lowest amount of water inflow. So where your average over starting in 1942 and going through 2013 was that every year it would rain 1.2 million acre feet. In all these years, if you look, 2011, 127,000. 2014, 209,000. 13, 08, 7, and right on down. So obviously there's something else going on. The rainfall is not coming. There's been a paradigm shift in the way hydrology works, and it's just a big change. Texas has been based, I'm a Texas girl. History and tradition's my favorite thing. But the reality is that makes change very hard. You've got a lot of people in Austin, elected officials, who've been there for a long time and have scads of wisdom and don't know any of this. And so that's part of what CTWC has been doing for the past 5 years, is trying to educate not just the public, but our elected officials, because legislation is really the place this has to go. Water management policies are critical. Now, May is the wettest month on record for Texas ever, this May. But what you're seeing is an anomaly of extreme weather, extreme drought, extreme flood. I remember growing up at my grandmother's in East Texas, where every afternoon there'd be clouds would come in, there'd be a nice little rain, it rained, it stopped raining, everything was beautiful and green. That does not happen anymore. And you can already look, May was wet. The combined storage of the lakes is up 77% from being 34% on January the 1st. But the thing to remember is that in 1952, you hear the drought of record. That's that bad drought from 47 through 57. In 52, Lake Travis rose 57 feet in 14 hours. Okay? But the drought continued another 5 years. The fact that we're getting rain right now is wonderful because the economic impact on the businesses around the lakes, on the real estate, has been tremendously devastating. I try not to say we're fighting the rice farmers for water, but the reality is we're fighting the rice farmers for water. There are 200 rice farmers down basin. There are 1.5 million, 2 million people in Central Texas. 50 years ago, Texas was rural and a little urban. Now that has flipped. We're now 84% urban, and the rest is rural. But the power base has been thoroughly laid down there to protect the people who've been here growing rice for a long, long time. Another little interesting fact is that rice farmers don't even have their water rights. They sold their senior water rights to LCRA, who manages our water. The last one was Garwood in '98, and LCRA paid $75 million for their water rights. So LCRA owns the water rights for all 4 rice districts down basin. But it never changed the way they were doing water. Their water was basically free until '89, when Austin filed a lawsuit. An adjudication finding came out at that time that said, LCRA, you have to meet the needs of your firm customers. They are guaranteed water, both for current and projected needs. Now they're meeting the current needs, but they're not going to be able to meet the projected needs. And so, without changing the way they allocate the water. So it's not just drought, you know, it's water management that is the biggest issue. TCEQ did approve the emergency order July 1st. And what that means is that the plan, the water management plan that was in place that controls the water, the surface water in the Colorado River, all right, has been in place since 2003 was when they did the plan. It got caught up in the courts until 2010. So the plan we're currently under was done when there were huge floods and no drought. And that water management plan didn't talk about drought at all because it had not been occurring the way it's occurring now. 2011 was a mixed blessing. Economically, it was devastating to Central Texas, and we're still working to recover that. But politically, it was the best thing that could have happened because all of a sudden people said, wait a minute, we're sending all of our drinking water. The drinking water is going down basin. That's how we started getting the emergency drought orders, which would say that LCRA cannot release water to some rice industries. Therefore, 2 of them still get water basically for nothing because they have contracts that you and I wish we had written. But the other 2 have to abide. So they are cut off from raw stored water. They can't get water out of Travis, but they do get run-of-river water. And the other thing to remember about down basin is they get twice as much rain as we do, and they have groundwater. When we were negotiating the water management plan in 2010, we said, guys, this was the rice farmers, you know, you've got groundwater. You know, we don't have anything but the rain. If it does not rain, we're done. But you have lots of rain and you have groundwater. True story. They said, well, yeah, but it costs too much money. It costs more to pull the water out of the ground. Our electric costs are more than we have to pay for surface water. And you're saying, what is wrong with this picture? But that's just the way it has been for a long, long time. And they feel very entitled, which makes it very hard. But this will protect us from the lake being empty through this year. 2016 is a different story. We started out as representing the lake's interests, and in 2011 we formed Central Texas Water Coalition because it was obvious that the control of what happened to our waters was in the hands of rice farmers and LCRA. And at that time, they're in business together. We said, gosh, you're selling them water and you're down there running the operations and you're the ones who decides what you're going to charge them for water, and doesn't that seem like kind of a conflict? You can tell how naive I was at the beginning before I learned how the game was played. So the day that we finished with the water management plan, we formed Central Texas Water Coalition. And then in 2012, we're a 501c4 because we have to be able to lobby. That's the only way this is going to change. Is through working through legislative changes. In 2012, we formed Friends of, so we had a tax-deductible nonprofit who contributes to us. And then in June of last year, we formed a statewide committee that does business as Water Equality for Texans. And what we realized was after going through 2011, 2013, and not even being able to get in to see people we needed to get into, we had to reach out statewide for support. So we went to other river basins. And that way we'll have a representation statewide on issues we're working on. Our goals are education, conservation, environment, and legislation. This year, for the first time, we got resolutions from the Senate and the House recognizing what we were doing to benefit water, which was wonderful. Seeing as how used to, we couldn't even get in to see anybody. The other thing that I did as soon as we formed CTWC was water's nonpartisan. Texas is a terribly politically divided state. And so I didn't want to get into that. So we reached out to the two strongest senators, Kirk Watson and Troy Frazier. And they both understand water. And I always say, you know, Troy's way over here on the right, and Kirk's way over here on the left. But on water, they are right here. They are 100% in agreement on water. And that's one of the things that has allowed us to be effective with what we're doing. And we just work together, and they put a lot of pressure on both LCRA, TCEQ, and the Texas Water Development Board. The main thing is we have got to have a water management plan in place that puts a cap on the amount of water that can go down basin. And that was the biggest battle we won with the water management plan. The plan that's in place right now, if it stayed in place in 2016, rice farmers would be able to pull out another 141 trillion gallons. And there would not be one single thing we could do about it, or even LCRA. Part of the problem is LCRA has appointed members. And this is part of the thing, you know, the governor appoints. And so there's not a lot of accountability for those members. And it ends up being a 7-8 split on almost every issue. And when you're talking about drinking water versus flooding rice fields, which is an archaic method. There are all kinds of drip irrigation, cuts the water use in half, but they don't want to do it because they don't have to. They've always been able to get it. So that's kind of been what our battle cry has been.
As far as the sunset review?
Yes.
That would include LCRA, that was,
yes. That passed.
They are going to slot them for a sunset review.
Oh, absolutely. Donna Howard has tried every year. She has always put in a bill to say, we need to sunset review LCRA, and we need to change the way the board members are appointed so that each county, there are 10 counties, each county can appoint a person from their county that's responsible to them, and then the governor can appoint the rest. Well, obviously, the governor, and certainly with Governor Abbott, who's been much more amenable to us, he does understand water, he does know it's an issue. He has worked with us on things where we didn't get anywhere working with Governor Perry. But sunset review passed, and it was done so that it sunsets all river authorities. What they cannot do, the only difference in a regular sunset for a state agency, if they sunset a state agency and it's doing a terrible job, they can shut it down. They can't shut down a river authority, and that was in the legislation, but we worked hard for that one every year, and it did pass this year. But it will be 2019. This is where you're, before LCRA comes out. LCRA has never had a financial audit done by an outside, never had a state audit. And both Kirk and Troy Frazier have tried to get them to do, to have a state audit. And they always say, we don't have to because we do audits. Here's the company we use, we're fine. We got this STAR award for transparency. We got this for, and it's just all smoke and mirrors. You can tell I get in trouble a lot. But, with the water thing, it's just important that you tell it like it is and not soft code it. I mean, we're all used to people saying the smooth thing, the politically correct thing. This is our drinking water. This is our business. This is our lifestyle. And for a lot of us, it's been our tradition, our family tradition forever. You come to Austin because of the water. The water is what made Austin grow. If Austin ran out of drinking water, it would be international news. And you've got the conflict between the growth, the building up in Austin, and where is the water going to come from? And that's one of the things that we're working on. I always like to use this one because when I'm doing this, I did a presentation in Tampa Bay to the International Marinas Association. And I mean, everybody said, oh my God, when I showed this. You grow rice. This is a picture of the lake. Lake Buchanan shot on the left and the rice fields on the right. And it's much more than a drought problem. And that's been the issue. We've learned to talk in sound bites so that people understand a little better. This is one we use. In 2011, the water provided to 200 rice farmers was enough to supply Los Angeles for a year. And when you, because water is, complicated, and it deals with all kinds of terminology a lot of people are unfamiliar with, it was really hard to come up with little bites that would make sense to everybody. So if you guys come up with a slogan or something with water, let me know, because I guarantee you will use it. I show this one because what it shows you is that on the right-hand side in 1 year, this was 2011, that's the amount of water that the rice farmers used. That was at 433,000 acre feet. On the left-hand side, it shows you how many years of water it took from Austin's use before they equaled 1 year of rice farmers. 15 years. It took Austin 15 years worth of the water they pull out of Lake Travis to equal what rice farmers used in 1 year. Now that's just your reservoir lakes. But that just blew me away. If you take, now Austin also has river rights, so in the river water is different than the stored water. This is where it gets weedy. This is stored water. They also have river rights, and they pull water out. But even using all the water Austin uses, it's a 3-to-1. Total amount of water pulled out of everywhere for Austin for drinking water is 3 years worth to 1 year of the rice farmers with this. And so you're thinking 98,000 people in Wharton, Colorado and Matagorda County, 2 million in Central Texas. They're decreasing 7.8% every 10 years. We're increasing 28%. It's just like, what is wrong? Why is it so hard for people to understand this? And this is why the legislative piece has been a handful, because the laws are set up upside down. The laws are set up to use every single drop of water. And you will hear, you see, LCRA used to say it, you never hear it anymore since Phil Wilson and his group came in last year, and there was a big change. Phil Wilson's the first general manager for LCRA who didn't grow up in LCRA. Every other general manager had worked for them for 30 years. They got their master's through them, they got their law degree through them. Bill Wilson came in from the outside. He was a political appointee for Perry for lots of things. He came in, I thought, oh no, another one. But what a nice surprise. First thing he did was reach out to everybody and open up dialogue. We have regular meetings with him. We fight, we scrap, we disagree about a lot, but we do it politely. So there's been a huge change with what's happened with LCRA. Not as much as it needs to, because water pricing is the number one key that's the hardest thing to get done. But as a firm customer, you pay $175 for 1 acre foot. If you're a rice farmer, you pay $6.50. And when I said don't believe me, go home and check this yourself, this is the one that after one of the first presentations, a friend of mine came up and said, Joe, I know you're going to be so embarrassed, but I know you misspoke. I know you meant to say $65 or blah, 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 not $6. I said, nope, I know it's hard to believe, but that is what they pay for raw stored water. We started working with another group called, that's out of the Houston, San Antonio area, that was Water Leadership Roundtable. And they came out with a lot of really good recommendations that were exactly what we were doing. And we went and met with them, and they are looking at it like you guys do as investors. They are looking at it, where do we invest? What do we do? How do we protect our water? So we've just started with them. We see them as being a big help in helping us move the legislative agendas that have to move. Water pricing has to be covered. I mean, water pricing is going to change. If this rain does not continue next year, we'll be right back, better shape, because if the 2016 plan goes into effect, they won't be able to empty the lakes, but they're still entitled to water. My thing is, until everybody's drinking water is a need, so every business needs met, they shouldn't use surface water. They have options. Let them do their extra rain, let them do their groundwater, and pay for it just like we do. And they're also looking at some desal things, which is a good thing. We've been looking closely at the desal. Keep an eye on that, because that's where the future of Texas water is going to be. I like to use this one too. This is from your economic impact study on Lake Travis. And it shows you the top of Mansfield Dam, the historic high, your full elevation at 681. When you hit 650, you start having economic impact. And we have been way down. The historic low was at 51 at 614. And we were almost there in 2011. And you know that if you had businesses around the lake, or if it's a place that you choose to recreate. The other thing we learned really quickly is you can't say recreation. At CTWC, you will never hear me say, we need to protect recreation, because to everybody else, it's grandpa in a canoe. To us, it's a recreational industry. It is the tourism industry, and it is tremendous in the state of Texas. Your water code does not even consider economic impact, which is nuts. That was what our bill was designed to have. It is one variable, which we thought, and we still do, it would benefit everybody statewide, because if they want water, if there's a permitting issue, they can go and say, okay, here's the economic impact this had on my business, or here's the economic impact on my community. But right now, it's considered under the table, but it's not considered at the table. And that's what we want, is a level playing field. There's just a lot to do. Yeah?
What defines full elevation? I mean, why not 690 or 670 or why 681? Where does that number come from?
The 681 Mansfield Dam was designed as the last flood resort to keep it from flooding downstream. So what they call full elevation means that even if it hits full elevation and goes up higher, it will still be protective. It was built in to protect from flooding. Remember, like Buchanan Dam was built in 34. I mean, this stuff has been here for a long time. Austin had several dams that got blown out. I mean, the Colorado River used to be powerful. It will make you cry if you go upriver now and you look at what's up above us. You look at Ivy, you look at Fisher, you look at Thomas, you go up to Lake Meridian. Those people are living off of groundwater, which is now having huge impacts on their aquifers. There are two sets of laws to deal with water. This is the other thing that's crazy about Texas. Only place in the world that does this. Groundwater has one set of rules. Surface water has a completely another set. I mean, completely. They're not even remotely connected. But water is water. But trying to do that, you get into property rights of the individuals. If you own the land, you can pull out all the water you want. Just put your straw in and pump it out unless somebody around you complains and says you're emptying our aquifer. That's just the way the law is set. Surface water belongs to the state and is managed by your river authorities. Have I thoroughly confused you? Carlos and Charlie's. The top one was Carlos and Charlie's. If we remember it, we used to always go on Friday and have Cokes. Remember, you get your hamburger and you boat up. It was so much fun. And this is what it looks like now. Went under completely, closed down. This one I use this as much for Chairman Keffer's quote as the lake. The top is, this is Buchanan. The top is with water, the bottom is what it looked like before this rain in May. We're still waiting for approval from TCEQ on the water management plan. We had a hearing the 20th. There'll be an opportunity to make comments. I will be sending something out and hopefully you will support the water management plan going in. These are the drought levels that were put in. In the past, all the water management plans dealt with flood, but nothing about drought. It just, it just wasn't as critical an issue. That's what I meant about the paradigm shift we've been in. This is a big step. It's not the solution. Here's my hydrological cycle. You get concerned when there's a drought. It stays dry, you get more concerned. And then there's a little rain and apathy occurs. That's what's always happened. But this drought scared people. This time we've been working saying, God, if this drought ends, it's really going to make it harder for us to reach people. People got it. Because now when I get emails, people are saying, JoKarr, this is great, the rain's here, but how do we keep the water from being drained out? So that was like a moment for me, because I knew everybody understood how critical it was that we protect our water. This is just the stuff we do. We have a Facebook and Twitter. We have a website, Central Texas Water Coalition. We post. We're very transparent. We post all of our research. Everything's up there. Let people know, sign up, educate, invite us. I'll speak anywhere, kitchen table to state conventions. Join us and stay involved. And that's my information. Thank you.